This is the Rod Langway Fan Club.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rod Langway Fan Club podcast. I am your host, Jeff Roman. We are back. We're back for our 8th season with a special regular season preview show. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Mark Cheknita.
I'm stoked to be back, and there is so much to talk about today. We're going to go through all 32 NHL teams, so don't worry. Whatever team you like, we're going to talk about them today.
Yeah, we're on a trip to the zoo today.
Yeah, John promised he'd take us to the zoo, and it kind of just didn't happen this summer, so we decided let's combine it with the show this year. It should be a fun little adventure.
And we're starting our trip here at Longshan Temple.
Yeah, why are we here again? This is kind of far away from the zoo.
Well, I think John said he had a few things to do in the neighborhood. I'm not exactly sure what.
Oh, he should be around any second now. Oh, hey, that's him right there, isn't it?
Hey, John.
Hey guys, how we doing? Good
Nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. I do love this temple here. What a beautiful waterfall they have just out here in the courtyard.
Yeah, this is probably one of the biggest and most popular temples in the country, actually built in the 18th century by some settlers from the Fujian province in China. I don't know, I've come here many times over the years. It's got a kind of a gritty feel to it, but I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's in Huanhua neighborhood. It's one of the older parts in the city.
Yes, for sure. And the temple, I mean, just look at it. It's so elaborately decorated. It's colorful. It's got dragons. It's got all sorts of gods and goddesses to go pray to. So I'm looking forward to just wandering around, and maybe we can break down the Atlantic Division while we're here.
Atlantic? Why Atlantic first?
Well, I mean, Montreal is the mecca of hockey. It's kind of a religion there, and this is a place where, there's a lot of praying. So I think it's a good, and not to mention, I know Toronto and Boston,
yeah,
also original
say,
6
Toronto
teams.
and Boston are in there, too.
Well, it's no Montreal, but fine. We should start in Montreal, though, I think.
Well, hang on a second here, guys. Before we get into the temple, I think we should pay homage to the man himself, Rod Langway, 2-time Norris winner, Secretary of Defense. He is the one who we do all of this for.
Yeah, people often ask, why are you guys called the Rod Langway Fan Club Podcast? Well, it's because Rod Langway is the only NHL player to have been born in Taiwan. Cool little footnote.
In Rod we trust.
Okay, well, let's get started here. Let's head over to the main part of the temple, the main hall here. This is a statue to Guan Yin, the goddess of mercy.
And I'm wondering, will the Atlantic Division have mercy on the Montreal Canadiens?
Ooh, well, mercifully, I hope we end up with the first pick overall, because it could be a long season in Montreal.
Well, I don't think it's going to be all doom and gloom. It should be pretty entertaining, at least. I really like the 2 young centers that they have.
Yeah, starting with captain Nick Suzuki, career high 66 points last season. I think there's room for growth there. I think he'd be a point per game guy as soon as this year, maybe.
Yeah, and second center, also a young kid, Kirby Dach. They managed to pry him away from the Chicago Blackhawks. He's a big body, also only 22 years old. Had a pretty decent season last year, but I think he might have a bit more in the tank as well.
Yeah, you got to think going into his second season in Montreal, he's probably a little bit more comfortable. Sounds like he's filled out a lot, too.
Yeah, and on the wing, they have some really nice young talent as well. I mean, no greater than Cole Caulfield. This is a bona fide goal scorer. What can we expect out of him this year, do you think?
Well, he was on pace for over 40 goals last season, had the shoulder injury, had to shut it down, but he looks really good in preseason. I think he could pace around 40, maybe even high side 50 this year.
Ooh, yeah, that would be huge for Montreal.
Yeah, goal Caulfield. What a shot this kid has.
Yeah, 26 goals in 46 games. That's pretty impressive. That puts him on a well over 40 goal pace. Also, though, they have last year's first overall pick, Yuri Slafkovsky. He had a decent enough rookie campaign. He was hurt. Mark, how about him? What can we expect out of him this year?
Yeah, not a lot of people in Montreal using the word decent. Pretty disappointing first year. Of course, ending the year injured was not great. But it's tough for an 18-year-old to adjust. New ice surface coming over from Europe. The tools are there. He's just got to catch up to the speed of the game. And hopefully this year he can maybe pot, 30, 40 points. I think would be a successful second year.
I do kind of like the mix of veterans that they have up front as well. Gallagher returns, Monahan, Josh Anderson, they're bringing in Tanner Pearson. But Mark, as I look at this defense, I just don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, not a lot of experience back there, although Mike Matheson was dynamite last year for Montreal. Hopefully he can bring more of that. He's the leader of that D-corps. Caden Gooley's the guy to watch out for, though, former first-round pick. He was pretty good last season. I think he'll take a step forward this year. Shut down defender, skates really well.
I kind of like Arbor Jacki. How about him back there? He's a big boy and doesn't mind mixing it up with some of the more fierce fighters in the NHL.
Yeah, I wonder if he and Reeves are going to tussle this season.
And in net, there is no more Carey Price. They're dealing with Sam Montembeault and Jake Allen. Not the most confidence-inspiring duo back there, I'd say.
The advanced stats on Montembeault were actually really good last season, but can he bring it for a full year?
So that about does it for the Canadiens. Another team that might be in need of some mercy is the Detroit Red Wings. Now, their captain, Dylan Larkin, 79 points last year, solid year, but do they have enough down the middle?
Well, number 2, they have Andrew Kopp, former Winnipeg Jet. I do have a bit of soft spot for him, but, I don't love him as a number 2. I would say that's a bit of a stretch for what he might offer.
Yeah, I don't really see it as him being the 2. I think you got a couple guys. They also brought in JT Compher. I think between the two of them, they might bounce back and forth second, third liners. We call them middle 6 centers maybe, but he's kind of a Swiss Army knife kind of guy, does a little bit of everything. He can kill penalties, he can play on your power play, so not a bad acquisition.
No, but their biggest acquisition in the offseason was getting Alex DeBrincat. He came over from Ottawa, and I think they're expecting big things from him offensively.
It was a little bit of a down year for him in Ottawa, but if he can regain his scoring touch, this is what the Red Wings need.
Yeah, sometimes a guy just doesn't fit on a certain team. I think both he and Ottawa realized it just wasn't the right fit. I think Detroit is going to get top billing, first line power play, first line with Larkin, so I think he could come back and score close to 40 here.
I kind of like bringing in Daniel Sprong, a little bit of a depth scorer.
Yeah, he had a great year in Seattle last year. Very good even strength player. So also they're going to hope for some depth contribution from him.
As long as he's using his hands for scoring goals instead of punching out race car drivers.
Yeah, a bit of a faux pas playing in Motor City, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of attention is going to be on a couple of their young kids, Lucas Raymond and Maurice Sider.
Yeah, they were both dynamite in the rookie seasons, had the sophomore slumps, and they're going to need a lot of scoring help from Raymond because they're not that deep up front.
No, Morris Sider definitely had his own sophomore slump. Still got 37 points, and he plays good defensive game and a very physical game as well. So if he could just get a little more offense, maybe if he could get up to 50 points, I think that would be a good improvement and really help the team out.
Yeah, if both those kids could have bounce back years, hey, look out.
And they did sort of overhaul the bottom end of their D. They brought in Jeff Petrie, Shane Gostisbehere, and Justin Hall, all some veteran players. Mark, what do you think about these guys?
Don't like it. I think about all the forwards they're going to be facing within their division. I think they could get lit up. I think they might actually lead the league in goals allowed.
And how about their goalie tandem, Husso and James Reimer?
Also does not inspire a ton of confidence. Especially, Mark, I know you're a big fan of James Reimer, aren't you?
There's no rhyme or reason why this guy is still playing in the NHL. It really makes no sense to me. Again, this is why I think Detroit's going to have a lot of trouble keeping the puck out of their own net.
Yeah, there are some concerns. What do we think about the Yzer plan?
I'm officially worried about the Yzer plan.
Yeah.
Getting all these high-priced veterans coming in there, I just feel like they didn't have the young core that they needed.
Yeah, not enough elite young talent, both up front and on the blue line. They've got a few nice pieces, but I think they're just trying to peak too early here.
Yeah, it seems like they're putting out a team that's not really ready to compete at an elite level at all. Yeah. Some questions with the Yzer plan for sure.
All right, so what's next here?
Well, guys, while we're at the temple, we got to burn some of these incense sticks over here. Just over here.
I've always loved the smell of incense.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's a cool smell. So just great, if we grab a couple of these and just light them here on the candle.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
Put her in there.
Yeah. Adds to the ambiance, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how about the Buffalo Sabres? Are they making sense for the playoffs this year?
Well, they just might be making sense with this deadly duo on D back there. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin really broke out last year, almost a point per game. And Owen Power, he seems to be continuing to improve. So, I mean, this year they're going to be really dangerous, and moving forward, they could be one of the best duos in the entire league.
I think they improved the depth on the blue line as well. I liked the moves of bringing in Connor Clifton from Boston. And Eric Johnson's a good veteran as well that will help stabilize things.
Well, they are definitely going to need some good goaltending this year, but it's a really inexperienced group.
Yeah, everybody's talking about Devin Levi being the next great goaltender in the NHL, and maybe one day he'll be that, but young goalies, I don't know, banking on a young goalie is always a dicey play.
He played 7 games last year and looked pretty good. He's a confident kid.
Yeah, for sure. Great personality, and he seems to be liked by a lot of the team, and certainly the media. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is the other guy, also quite inexperienced. There is some potential there, but I think we just really don't know what we're going to get out of either of these guys going into next season.
Yeah, one of them's going to have to emerge because the only other goaltender of note is Eric Comrie. He's the elder statesman at the tender age of 28. Hasn't had that much experience in the league, though.
Yeah, a lot of questions in net for Buffalo.
But some bright spots. I mean, if we look at their forward group, that top line.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, and Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, I watched a lot of that line last year, plucked a couple of those guys off the waiver wire in my fantasy league. I think they're going to be one of the top lines again.
Yeah, and I don't mind their second line either. Dylan Cousins should take a step forward. A lot of people are pretty high on JJ Peterka. Maybe not this year quite, but certainly in the future. And Casey Middlestad, another young forward who I think has some room to grow into.
Yeah, Dylan Cousins has been very good. I can't wait to see what he's going to do this year.
And they also have one of my favorite players, Zemgus Girgensons, for some nice depth.
Great name.
Great name. One of the best names in the league, so gotta like that.
I've always said if I'm ever a father, I'm going to name my firstborn Zemgus.
Well, I think this team will be competitive until the very end and has an outside shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, another team on the rise in a very similar boat to Buffalo, the Ottawa Senators. These guys do have a chance to make the playoffs as well. What do we want to say about them?
Well, we got to talk about their two young studs, Tim Stützle. 90 points last year. Does he have a chance for 100 this year?
I don't see why not.
Right? He could.
He's been dynamite.
And of course, Brady Tkachuk, he had 83 points last year. He has some room to grow.
For sure he does. A lot is going to be riding on another one of the young players, Josh Norris. He was hurt last year. He seems to be still dealing with some shoulder issues. If he could be healthy and contribute at the level he's capable of, watch out. This is a dangerous team.
I was surprised about Claude Giroux last year. He had an excellent season.
He's a great fit playing with some of those young studs we mentioned before, that veteran leadership. He's also a local guy. He's from Ontario. I think he's going to be kind of the Joe Pavelski of the Eastern Conference and extend his career in Ottawa.
Okay. And Alex DeBrincat, of course, we mentioned that he left for Detroit, but they bring in Tarasenko.
Yeah, Vladimir Tarasenko. We can see how much he can contribute, how much he's got left in the tank. But also on that second line, they have Drake Batherson, another really young, great player who can score. So I really love their top-end talent on the first two lines.
One thing that impresses me about this team is their defense.
Yeah, wow. I mean, the big three-headed monster of Thomas Chabot, Jacob Chychrun, and Jake Sanderson, newly signed to that 8-year, $8 million per season deal. I love what Ottawa's doing, locking up their best players long-term.
Yeah, and Artem Zub, he's a big physical presence back there. I think he's an important piece of the defensive puzzle as well for Ottawa.
Yeah, Zubaloo brings the sandpaper.
And Ottawa made a big splash in the free agent goaltending market by bringing in Jonas Korpisalo.
Yeah, a little underwhelming in Columbus, but he looked really good in Los Angeles last year in his brief stint there. I think that really solidifies the goaltending position for them.
Yeah, and I also don't mind Anton Forsberg as a backup. I think in the goaltending position, they're maybe not much stronger, but certainly stronger than Buffalo and Detroit. I like this team on paper quite a lot.
Guys, I'm really liking the music going on. I know it's not our usual kind of soundtrack, but digging the vibes.
Yeah, let's get a little closer here. It sounds cool.
Yeah, this old gentleman here playing Urhu sounds really good. Let's go take a look. It's a cool one-stringed instrument. I've always really liked the sound of it.
You know, as we continue to work our way through the division here, it's kind of a transitional point. We've got kind of the old guard now, some of these teams that have been near the top of the division, and they've all got major question marks. Let's start with the Boston Bruins, who have lost their captain, Patrice Bergeron, and their number 2 centerman, David Krejci. Who's going to step up?
Yeah, I'm really going to miss Patrice Bergeron. What a player, what a career. Krejci also had a nice career as well. We know that this team will not repeat their record-setting season last year, but yeah, their center depth.
Really hurting. I mean, Pavel Zacha, I think he's a good player and probably has a bit more in him than he's shown in the past, but is he really a number 1 center? I'm not so sure.
Charlie Coyle.
Decent players, but just nowhere near the caliber they had last year and in previous years.
Yeah, depth players that are now thrust into leading roles. They're going to have to lean heavily on the wingers. Thankfully, they've got a couple of the best in the game.
Yes, David Pastrnak had an amazing year, 60 goals last season, and the new captain, Brad Marchand, is back.
Yep, and he's always an excellent player. I think you can rely on him for some good production and obviously a leadership role. Defense, I think they're stronger on defense than they are at forward. I do like Grzelcyk and McAvoy. I think they're a good 1-2 punch. Hampus Lindholm, also an excellent defender back there.
Well, I think the 1-2 punch is actually McAvoy and Lindholm.
Sure.
Grzelcyk hasn't really panned out yet. He's still relatively young, and some D-men take longer to reach their potential, so I'm not writing him off, but Lindholm was dynamite last year.
John, what do you think of some of the veteran acquisitions that they brought in? JVR, Luch. Luch is back in Boston, and Shattenkirk.
Yeah, they're all good players. JVR definitely still has some offensive talent, but I don't think it's enough to replace the guys they lost. Of course, they lost Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno as well. So those are guys that they're going to have to replace. I'm certainly not too high on Milan Lucic. I'm not sure how much he has left.
But the real strength of this team is in net.
Yeah, they've got Linus Ullmark, reigning Vezina Trophy winner, and arguably the best second goalie on any team, Jeremy Swayman. He's going to be a starter in the league at some point.
Yeah, I think that goaltending is going to have to be excellent to patch up some of the other deficiencies in this roster if they want to make the playoffs.
And moving along to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, this is a team who's never really had problems in goal with Andrei Vasilevsky. He's been incredible, but they got some really unfortunate news.
Yeah, he underwent a medical procedure on his back. He's expected to miss the first 2 months of the season. And take it from a guy who's had back issues. Once you've got back problems, you never know when it's going to go out. So this is a big problem going forward for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they don't really have anybody to plug in there. I mean, currently, they're looking at this guy, Jonas Johansson. Has had a little bit of NHL experience, but has not really performed very well in the chances he's had. So this is a big problem for this team.
They'll probably pick up a veteran, maybe like a Martin Jones, a Dan Vladar, but it's no Andrei Vasilevsky.
You know, Tampa Bay's been competitive for so many years, but their depth has been getting whittled away here. The year before, they lost Palat. This year, Killorn, Ross Colton, Corey Perry's not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they still have Anthony Cirelli. They have Nick Paul. They have Tanner Jeannot from last year. Brandon Hagel, of course, he's on the top line. I think these are decent players, but they're going to have to step up and do a little more of the heavy lifting than they're used to.
Yeah, bringing in Connor Sherry could help too. Again, though, what is his ceiling? 20-goal season, maybe?
They still have a fantastic core. I mean, Kucherov, 113 points last year, right? We made a big deal about Braden Point. He got 51 goals.
Yeah, unbelievable year for Point.
Incredible. And, you know, Stamkos, he was a little bit down. He had 34 goals last year, but he still had 84 points. So they're going to be relying a lot on those guys.
He's a little bit down because the team has not offered him an extension yet. They're going to save that until the end of the year. So I wonder if the captain's not happy, is that going to have an effect on the overall morale in the locker room, especially with Vaz going down?
And they still have a strong defense.
I do like their defense. I mean, Victor Hedman and Miguel Sergachev are really excellent defenders. Nick Perbix is good. Eric Chernak is a big body who can really provide some defensive play. So their defense is pretty solid, but I don't know. Is that going to be enough to really patch up the holes and get them into the playoffs?
Yeah, I could see them really struggling to get in there. I mean, they'll be in the race, but they're not the shoo-in they used to be.
Another Sunshine State squad dealing with injuries is the Florida Panthers. What a run this team went on last year. They made the playoffs by 1 point. They made it all the way to the finals. But two big players, Aaron Ekblad and Brendan Montour, are banged up to start the year.
Yeah, this is their top two defensemen. Without them, their defense core looks pretty slim. Gustav Forsling, he's okay. They brought in OEL, decent defender, but again, we're not sure at this stage in his career how much he can offer. You know, and as far as injuries go, Matthew Tkachuk, of course, played a couple games with that broken sternum, maybe just one game with a broken sternum. How healthy is he coming into this year? A lot of people are worried about that.
Yeah, Matthew Tkachuk, I mean, what a superstar he's become. Another 100-point season. People will be watching him closely to see how healthy he is to start, though.
Yeah, and I mean, on that top line as well, they have Carter Verhaeghe. He had an excellent year. He broke the 40-goal mark for the first time in his career. I really like this guy. He's a bit of a spark plug.
But I think the guy who can be the anchor of that line, kind of almost forgotten about in all of this, is Alexander Barkov. I think he has another gear that he can reach, and he's going to have to do it early on.
Down year for him last year?
A little bit, yeah. He's still an elite player, but I think, like I said, he can take it to another level. He's going to have to because they're going to be in tough to start the year.
And what about in net, guys? They're bringing back Officer Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight.
Yes, obviously, Sergei Bobrovsky had that excellent run all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Just fell short, but during the regular season, he has been known to be a very streaky goaltender. So, backing him up is Spencer Knight. Mark, what do you think about Spencer?
no doubting this kid's talent. He did spend some time in the player assistance program last year. Hopefully everything's going well for him on a personal level because he's got great potential, and Florida's banking on him being their franchise goalie down the road here.
Yeah, I would expect this team to make the playoffs, but I don't think it's a guarantee.
Well, guys, before we leave the temple, I do think we have to throw the moon blocks. You know, they have these sort of crescent-shaped wooden blocks. You throw them like dice, and you can ask the gods a question, and, you'll receive a little answer.
Oh, these are really cool. I like these. What's the question then?
Well, Jeff, there's one team left in the division. We have yet to talk about your Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's see what the Moonblocks think about their prospects for this year.
Okay, all right. Let's see.
Will they win the Stanley Cup?
All right.
Yeah.
That's the question. I'll ask the gods. Will the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup? Here we go. That means yes, right?
No. When they're both
one side's up and the one side. No, it's yes.
No, that means no. They both have to be down. Both sides down.
Are you sure?
Well,
I'm not actually sure.
yeah, I'm not
Are you
totally
sure, John?
No, I'm not.
We might have to
can't
ask
say.
the tour guide over here.
Yeah, okay. But before we do that, why don't we talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, we have to begin with the core four. So much has been said about these guys. Mitch Marner last year had 99 points. He almost cracked the century mark. I would be shocked if he doesn't get there this year.
Yeah, and Austin Matthews, one of the best players in the world, maybe the best goal scorer in the world right now. But will he be healthy? The wrist has given him problems, and I mean, when you're a sniper, if you got wrist problems, you're not going to be performing up to par.
Yeah, he dropped from 60 goals to 40 last season. John, where do you think he comes in this year?
I wouldn't be surprised to see him get back up to 50. Hopefully that wrist is at least a little bit improved. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him right back up there in the elite tier.
A lot of people thought that John Tavares missed a step a bit, but I mean, he still was a point-a-game player.
You could argue that he's lost a step, although he was never the most fleet-of-foot guy. I think he is still a really important player on this team, anchoring that second line.
And Nylander, who was also a point-a-game player, a lot of talk about moving him at center. Do you think they'll actually stick with that?
I don't know if they'll stick with it. I mean, they'll give it a try. They're giving it a try here in the preseason, and it's looking like they may start the season like that. I don't think it's going to stick, though. I really don't. I think you kind of want him on the wing. He's such a dynamic offensive threat from there.
He's in the contract year, though, so you know he's going to be coming in hungry.
And the Leafs had a fairly busy offseason. O'Reilly went out the door. Bunting is gone, but they bring in Bertuzzi, Domi. They also got Klingberg and Ryan Reeves. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think of these changes?
I really like what they did at forward. I think that Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi are the perfect combination of skill and grit, kind of what Toronto's been missing in their top six. So really nice adds, and the contracts are reasonable as well for a team that's close to the cap.
Yeah, I don't like so much what they did on the back end. John Klingberg, I think, is a fine defenseman, but he's more of an offensive guy. I don't really think that's what the Leafs need. They need more of a stay-at-home presence, especially for their playoff run.
Yeah, the D-core is certainly not a strength. I don't love the depth there. I think that's an area they're going to have to address at the deadline, but it will be enough to get them through to the playoffs for sure.
I am really curious about a couple of youngsters. Matthew Nyes, I thought, looked really good when he joined the Leafs late last season before his injury. And another guy who's just had so many injuries is Nick Robertson. Is this the year that he finally breaks through? Because if one of these guys could really get in there, make a big difference for Toronto.
Yeah, I think Nyes is a pretty safe bet to score at least 40 points this year. Robertson, I'm not sold on, but the talent's definitely there.
And how about their goaltending? Ilya Samsonov returns, and we're going to see more of Joseph Woll this year. They performed pretty well in the playoffs last year as a duo. I think it's pretty decent. Certainly, if it's not a strength, it's not a weakness either.
Yeah, Samsonov was solid last year, and Wall's a pretty young kid, but the sample size, from what I've seen, pretty good goalie.
Yeah, usual story for the Leafs. Question marks in net, question marks on the D, dynamite forwards. I still think they're the best bet to win the division, though.
All right, well, I guess we're finished now with the Atlantic Division. Why don't we keep this show moving and move right along? Where's the exit?
Yeah, good call. Hey, guys, wait. Before we take off, though, for the MRT station, I got a little surprise for you. I got
What
some
kind of surprise?
firecrackers.
What? No, man.
Well, come on. We're at the temple. We have to ward off the evil spirits.
Out in the street, though. On the street.
Yeah, of course on the street.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, come on. Here, follow me. You want to do the honors
John, are
here?
you in on this?
Chef, light it up. Light it up. John,
Remember what happened last time? I want no part of this.
Sorry, John. This podcast is a democracy.
Come
Let's
on,
light them
no,
up
this
2
is
to 1.
dangerous. Oh,
Oh,
man.
this is going to be fun. Here we
Okay,
go.
okay,
Let's light it. Here we go.
Okay. Well, don't put it there. No. Ow, my foot.
Sorry, John. Sorry.
It right through my shoe.
You didn't have good thoughts in your head. It's your bad energy, dude. I'm sorry, but
Sorry, John.
I think there's
Okay, guys.
blood.
gods
Yeah,
do
let's
not
get out of
favor
here.
John.
Let's go.
Every time. Every time.
And he